Welcome to Spiritual Psychology. My name's Renee LaValle McKenna, and I bring my 30-plus years as a recovering addict and ex-crazy person turned therapist and shamanic healer to bring you snackable teachings on spirituality, psychology, and all things personal growth. And today I want to talk about meditation. And I first started meditating about 30 years ago because I was having this terrible chronic anxiety and panic attacks. And I only turned to meditation because I was completely desperate and had already tried everything else that I could think of. And the benefit of pain, and fear is absolutely a kind of pain, is that it makes us really open-minded and willing to go outside our comfort zone and try new and different things. And so I was driven to meditation out of desperation, and I have to say it worked. I went to a weekly meditation group for a couple of years. It was very simple, 20 minutes, silent sitting, and then we would share our experience after for about half an hour. There was very little structure to the meditations. In fact, different people would lead the group and make different suggestions. So I experimented with repeating a word or a phrase over and over while I was meditating, counting my breath, different visualizations. And I can't say that one technique was more effective than the other, but my anxiety began to dissolve away. And in its place came a sense of connection, groundedness, and a sense of well-being or trust in the process of my life that I had never really felt before. Now, that meditation didn't exist in isolation, and my panic and anxiety did not come out of nowhere. There was a whole bunch of outside circumstances that had brought me to probably one of the darkest periods of my life. The woman who had been my spiritual advisor and closest confidant had a nervous breakdown. My father got married to a woman who thought I was the spawn of Satan and apparently would have her own panic anxiety attack anytime my father would have interaction with me. So my father stopped talking to me, and I was involved in probably the most toxic and dysfunctional relationship that I have ever had. I was deep in credit card debt. I had my own business, and I was desperately and codependently trying to save a whole bunch of other people and unable to save myself. And rarely do things happen in isolation in a human life, so concurrent with my meditation practice came a willingness to really look at my own life and my part in it, and my desire for emotional relief took precedence over my desire to control everything. And ultimately, as it always does, the universe provided exactly what I needed for the next steps on my path, and I found a new spiritual advisor. I dissolved that marriage, filed bankruptcy, and made peace with the end of the relationship with my dad, as best one can do that. And that once-a-week 20-minute meditation had worked its way into my life, where probably a couple times a week I would sit quietly in my room by myself. Although I have always preferred meditating in a group, the resonance of other people doing the same thing just makes meditation that much easier for me. Plus, I love the interaction after, but that isn't always available. At that point, I began a deep dive into mystical Christian practice with a side serving of Buddhism based on the Thich Nhat Hanh book, Living Buddha, Living Christ. Really amazing book that looks at the deep intersection between Buddhism and Christianity. Actually, through that book, I came to go on a 3-week silent retreat with Thich Nhat Hanh and was introduced to a whole bunch of different kinds of meditation. Walking meditation, one of my all-time favorites. Eating meditation. Tea ceremony meditation. And the example and teachings of this brilliant little Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, and his monks and nuns. They brought the whole Plum Village community over to Vermont for a month. And the idea that life could be a meditation, that everything we do is an expression of our spirit into the world. And the more mindful we are about how we move, what we say, the actions we take, and the choices we make, determines the quality of our life and our experience of it. So I find that people often have a very limited idea of what it means to have a spiritual practice, and meditation in particular. Probably my favorite definition of meditation is the idea that prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening. And you can substitute whatever word you use for source for the God. And certainly there are many ways to practice meditation. And there are practitioners and teachers in each of those varied traditions, I'm sure, that will tell you that their way is the best way. And maybe it is the best way for them. But I think there's as many ways to meditate or commune with the larger consciousness system as there are people on the planet. And I was told in the early days that if you can sit still with the intention of being present, communing, or bringing your awareness deeper into yourself, then that is meditation. And certainly you might be able to measure different brain waves. And some might say that's a good meditation or a bad meditation. And unless you reach some certain specific state, it's not really meditation. And I think that's a bunch of bullshit. Because on the higher levels of consciousness, there are no secrets in the universe. Because we are permanently and inextricably connected and a part of this web of life. And the mere intention or desire to develop, to heal, to elevate ourselves, to listen, to turn inward, to be more present or connect, is met by the life force with a resounding hooray. And the god or goddess of my understanding meets us exactly where we are, because we can't be anywhere else. And wherever we are, in our emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic, or physical state, however elevated or depraved we may judge that to be, there is no hierarchy in spiritual practice. In fact, the more we practice, the more the hierarchy dissolves. And we experience both the truth of universal connection and the personal mystical experience that the universe cares about each one of us individually as well. Just like our body cares for each one of its cells. Because when each cell is healthy, the whole body is healthy. And there is a mysterious feedback loop, not dissimilar to cells in a body, and the larger system is listening. And meditation is a different way to plug into that system, from my perspective. For some, it might be understood as dropping below the intellect, and for some, it might be seen as elevating or resonating above the level of the intellect or rational mind. But for me, meditation is essentially a way to plug in, like a smartphone or desktop connected to the internet. There are infinite resources available to us if we know how to make the connection. The basis of a lot of my work with clients is guided imagery, which definitely looks like guided meditation. Shamanic practice is a very active, visual or kinesthetic, sensory meditation style. Again, opening us to receive, experience energy and information. Now, silent sitting meditation, which a lot of people see as someone sitting in lotus position with their legs crossed and their fingers touching in a mudra, which is a totally valid and ancient way to meditate, is only one way to do silent meditation. I feel very lucky. There's a Zen center here in San Francisco that has a beautiful meditation space and free community meditations that I absolutely love. You sit on a cushion or a chair facing a blank wall with 20 or 40 or 60 other people silently in the room. It's beautiful. And silent sitting has a very digestive quality to it. I often feel that my mind is able to release and kind of expel a lot of extraneous experience, feelings, and information that it's taken on that I don't even know about, and often opens me to a more inspired, connected way of being. One thing I have noticed when I'm in a period of practicing meditation regularly is that the level of serendipity or inspired coincidence in my life seems to go up. I did a podcast on synchronicity, number 71, if you want to learn more about that. Synchronicity is another word for serendipity. And when I started meditating by myself, I used to lay on the floor with my knees bent up so I didn't fall asleep. But it was comfortable, and I could lay there for about 5 minutes. And that was an excellent start. And again, there are those who would say that's not meditation. And I've met people who have developed their own spiritual ego, radical meditators who take pride in the amount of time they can sit. They want to meditate better than other people. You sit long enough, that'll dissolve. And some of my favorite meditation is to just sit with a candle and a notebook and just see what wants to come up and out or through. Sometimes art comes out. It's how I decide what I'm going to talk about for my podcasts often. Opening up that channel. My spiritual practice over the last few years has been primarily shamanic or ritual, and I had kind of fallen out of a silent sitting meditation practice. And I recently did a multi-day training on Vedic meditation, which is another iteration of the very popular practice transcendental meditation. And I became interested in that practice because I had a client who happened to be a crackhead who was pretty disorganized and having a lot of trouble telling the difference between speed-induced psychosis and paranoia and reality. And I was quite surprised when I asked them to come into their body, and he immediately dropped into this really deep meditative state. And I said, "How'd you do that?" "You crazy motherfucker, how did you do that?" And I didn't say the motherfucker part. And he said, "Oh, I trained in TM. I meditate all the time." Whoa, really? Even when you're smoking crack? Well, not so much when I'm getting high. Yeah, I don't think so. Anyway. God bless the sick and suffering. And drugs and alcohol are their own attempt at meditation for many, many people. So I became very interested in this practice and am kind of excited to return to a daily silent 20-minute sitting and to continue to expand my own capacity to plug into the larger consciousness system, to step more into the flow of the life force, to clear out any clutter I might be picking up on a regular basis and strengthen my other ways of knowing and gathering information. Running is a meditation for many people. So is surfing and gardening mindfully. Whatever opens up that channel for you, I give you permission to call it meditation. So life is a conversation. Our actions, our choices, our thoughts and behavior are how we express ourselves to the universal field. And meditation is taking some time to listen to what the universe wants to answer us back. So I encourage you to listen in whatever way works for you. Thank you so much for listening. I heard Spotify now allows you to rate and review podcasts, so I'd appreciate a 5-star and some kind words if you like what I have to say. I'm excited to start our first online spiritual practice group, the Open Door Group for Shamanic Experience. I'm going to be doing weekly lives. There'll be lots of practice and opportunity to share and learn from like-minded practitioners interested in the path of core shamanism. If you have experience in the lower world, have a spirit guide in animal form, you're welcome to join us. If you want to learn to journey and join us in the group, I encourage you to take our Intro to Shamanism Lower World digital course. The link is in the show notes. Really easy to follow guide into the profound and empowering world of shamanism, working directly with the spirit of nature for power and healing. If you have any topics you'd like me to cover, I'd love to hear them. Shoot me a message on Instagram at Renee LaValle McKenna. If you want to find out how spiritual psychology might benefit you in your life or learn about my mentorship program, email me info@reneemckenna.com. Deep gratitude to my supporters on Patreon and blessings on your path until we meet again. This is Renee LaValle McKenna for Spiritual Psychology.